Hello everybody, welcome back to Silver. We are ready for round 2 of Silver Season 8. And just waiting for one more person to jump into the lobby and we can get cracking then for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And welcome along then to the wonderful... oh, I don't know what I'm doing there. welcome along then to the lobby. We have got, I think we've got 20 drivers in now. Looks like we've got 20 drivers in. Beast has finally joined. Thank goodness. Right then, hopefully we can get started now. And looking forward to this one, of course, a street circuit, if you weren't aware of Jeddah. And it is quite treacherous indeed. A very high speed 27 turn street circuit, so it can lead to a few incidents here and there. Right then, ready to get going then. We are just counting down then before we get ourselves into the lobby. And welcome along then to Gordo. Hola, says Gordo. Good luck to everyone as well. Gordo, of course, missed the first race of the season, which was very, very, very shameful indeed. But he is here then in the Aston Martin to start off his season then for round 2 here in Jeddah then. Just a few seconds to go there before we get ourselves ready to race, or ready to qualify first, of course, and then we will get into the race. Only a short qualifying then for Silver in Season 8 then, and we will be ready to race then in about 20 minutes time or so, so stay tuned. We have got some action coming up here on the streets of Jeddah then very shortly. I tried a new flavoured water drink and it's lovely, says Gordo then. So that is an insight then into the Scotsman's life today. He is having a great time. So let's see how it's going to fare then in the Grand Prix itself. Right then, we are loaded in and I think we're ready to. I think the spectator is as usual ahead of the racers. So we'll have to wait and sit tight then in the garages for the first drivers then to come out of the pit lane. But we've got a couple of reserves in tonight then. Speed Kai in the Racing Bulls. We have got Duke in the Haas, as well as Tonto in the other Haas, and then we've got Kian in the Kick Sauber then, the Green Machine. So those are the reserves then for tonight then. Looking forward to seeing what they can do, but of course we're looking forward to seeing what the full-time drivers can do then in their second outing then of Silver Season 8 then. It was a fantastic race last week. Of course Ultimate Beast then claimed the victory in Bahrain to lead the championship here tonight. Then can he hold on to that championship lead? It's, from the sounds of it, he's not too confident around this circuit. We will have to wait and see who we are interviewing in the podium places at the end of the Grand Prix. Right then, I think qualifying is now underway. The timer has reset and we can crack on then for an exciting qualifying and then an exciting race, hopefully. So there we go then. How I know how I dare, says Gordo as well. Then Gordo is testing the limits then of the of the flavoured water drinks these days. Good stuff indeed. But yeah, of course, Gordo is a champion elect then, or champion crowned, I should say, then last season in the 100% League after a fantastic season for McLaren. Then the 100% League does kick off then on Wednesday night. Ginger Rage will be taken to the track then in the McLaren, which will be fantastic to see indeed. But of course, first we've got silver to go, and then we've got bronze as well. Then bronze tomorrow night, of course. So stay tuned. Then plenty more action, all the ALR action coming up now. We've got 4 rounds then in the week coming up then from this week then on the get go then for the remainder of the year pretty much. So yeah, stay tuned. Then there's going to be action 4 days a week now from ALR, and it is going to get exciting indeed. Then we've had a few exciting races already, especially gold last night. Go and check out that gold race after the Silver Grand Prix, of course. It was absolutely fantastic last night as well then, and somehow an Alpine of myself got a point, so I'll take it. So there we go. So there we are then. Nigel then first out on track then in the Kick Sauber. He is going to be taking us through the streets of Jeddah then here tonight then for his first outing then in the Jeddah Corniche circuit, then making sure he doesn't go into those walls and avoids those walls as much as he can because they are a bit dangerous. There we are then. Kicks out then to the first potential driver to set a lap time here tonight. Then we've got 16 minutes left of the session. Then we've got everybody in just about in time. We've got underway just about in time then for me to go to bed at about 9 p.m. So that's good stuff. And like I said, Nigel then going to be sending us underway, I should say, in this qualifying then round the final quarter then to complete the outlap. 27 turns, of course. Like I said, it's a very turny not very turny circuit. Well, I'm not quite sure how you can say that. A very complex circuit indeed, with lots of corners and lots of high-speed corners at that as well. Then through the first chicane then of turns 1 and 2. Then very nicely done then for the Sauber. Of course, had a difficult race in Bahrain. Then did end up having to retire with rear wing damage, did Nigel, and unfortunately that cost him dearly. Then that was a very difficult race then for the opening round then, I should say, of the season for the former champion of silver and of gold as well then for Nigel. Then it was a very difficult opening race for the season of Season 8. Then can he set his season back on track then here in Jeddah? Purple, of course, in Sector 1 then, looking good then round the hairpin we go then in the Sauber, then keeping it calm and collected as it stands into the Sector 2 of this next complex of corners. This is very difficult to get it right then, but he has got it right then. Speed Kai has retired in the pit lane, I think, and that is him done and dusted in qualifying already then, unfortunately then for Speed Kai and the Racing Bull driver. Then here comes Nigel then up towards Sector 2. Let's see what he can do then through the next chicane, then the final chicane as well. Then Purple, of course, Sector 2 as well. Then he is the only driver out on track then on a flying lap as it stands. Then here he comes now through the next complex of corners, but it's not too much difficulty then. Sector 3, it is put to the floor then and to the line. Around turn 27 then, and let's see what the Sauber driver can do then in his first attempt of qualifying. Up to the line then for Nigel. Then what's it going to be then to set ourselves underway? It's a 28.9 then for Nigel. Good stuff indeed then, and that is our first time on the board then, can you believe? So fantastic stuff indeed. Then we've got a Haas coming through of Duke. I think Duke then up to the line. What can the reserve driver do? Of course he's reserving for Irvine, I think, I believe. Up to the line then for Duke, then he's done 28.9 as well then, so very close indeed then to Nigel's time. Then he is down in P1, down in P2. He's the only driver to set a time, one of the only drivers to set a time. Then he is in P2, I should say. Kamara Racer though with a 28.5 then splits those 2 miles ahead then by 0.4 of a second then in the Williams. Great lap indeed then from Kamara. Then he is not too happy about this circuit, but let's see what he can do then. A 28.4 from Sweet MJP, then puts himself P1 for the time being on his first attempt as well. Good stuff from the Alpine of Sweet MJP. Here comes Mumford. He's on the medium compound tyres. Is Mumford. Gordo goes up into P3 with a 28.5 as well. Then R2 beat a 28.9. Then here comes Mumford up to the line on the medium compound tyres, and Mumford has done a 28.4 on the medium compound tyres, and I think that's going to be pretty scary then for his rivals as well then, because he is most of them are on the soft compound as well. Where is R2 beat gone? I think he's gone straight on at turn 1 then. He's avoided any incident there, but Jay Hings there with 29.0 then for the Aston Martin driver. Then Speed Car dropping down the order after retiring in the pit lane. Favre's on intermediate compound tyres, so we don't really care about him. Let's go and see who's going to be next across the line, and then I think it might be Ultimate Beast. No, it's Kiki. Then Kiki coming back into the box, and he's abandoned his time then as Kiki for some unknown reason. Then the other Sauber of Kian is on track as well, then flying through on his flying lap. Let's see what Reflection can do then up to the line. Then Reflection again had a difficult race last week with some pedal issues, I believe, but hopefully he's got that sorted now. A 39.7 though I don't think is a representative time. I think he's done 2 outlaps then, has the Williams car, maybe going for a flying lap here, so we'll see what he can do on his next lap. Kydell then flying through into Sector 3 as well. Then let's see what the McLaren driver can do. Had a difficult race as well, so did his teammate Mr. Elite then, and Kydell then struggled in the McLaren in Bahrain. He's clouted the wall then, has Kydell. Unfortunately for Kydell, that's going to cost him some time as well then, and he is coming back to the pit lane. He is abandoning his time as well then, so a few drivers then abandoning their attempts here in qualifying. Bath then getting out the way then on the intermediate compound tyres. Kian is flying through as well. Then here comes Ultimate Beast then. Beast up to the line. What can Beast do? And Beast's gone fastest with a 27.8 then. He is almost, what is that then? At least half a second ahead of Mumford. And Mumford, of course, is on the medium compound tyres though. But those two, the previous 2 in the Grand Prix in Bahrain last week, are looking quite strong in qualifying, I should say, here in Saudi Arabia. So that is not too shabby indeed then. Reflection coming through to finish off his next lap then, or his first flying lap, a proper flying lap, I should say. Let's see what we can do then. Potstuff said, evening all then. Good luck to the Sauber guys then. Unfortunately for Potstuff, he is, I think, working away then tonight. So hopefully he'll be back then for next week. Then Reflection coming back into the pit lane. He has abandoned his flying lap then, his actual flying lap, and is into the box then, unfortunately, for the Williams car. That is that done and dusted then for his first attempt here in qualifying. Then we've still got time on the board then, 11 minutes left, just under 11 minutes left here in qualifying for round 2. Saudi Arabia then in silver, season 8. Here comes Riyadh then in the Red Bull, then had a good start off to the season then, but unfortunately lost out on a few points then that he could have gained in the first outing in Bahrain. Then let's see what he can do here in the final lap, the final quarter then of the Jeddah better circuit then. Up to the line now for the Red Bull. What's he going to do? Where is it going to be then for Riyadh? And it's up to the line. It's P3 with a 28.4. Fantastic stuff indeed then from the Red Bull driver. Then up into the top 3 as it stands as well then. Cracking stuff indeed. Great stuff indeed, I should say, from Riyadh. Then well done to the Red Bull driver. Then good stuff indeed. Mr. Elite is next on track then. Mr. Elite flying through towards the final couple of corners now as well. Then we've seen somebody jump up the order. I think it was Sweet OJP, then up into P4. Nope, maybe not then. I'm not quite sure. But here we go. Then here comes Mr. Elite on his first run. Then up to the line for Mr. Elite. Then it is P14, a 29.7 for the McLaren driver on his first attempt here in qualifying. Good stuff indeed then to get himself on the board then, but he's spun through turn 1. And that was a bit too much power on too much on the power then over the curbs then for turn 1 for Mr. Elite's liking as well then. So unfortunately he has he has set a time at least on the board. Needs to make sure he gets out of the way then of cars coming through as well then. One of those cars coming through is Kiki. Then, of course, Kiki was on the front row of the grid then in Bahrain alongside his teammate then. And unfortunately, that was, it didn't work out in Kiki's favour then in the race there. He'd had a spin, which thankfully for me and for Kiki especially, we didn't see on the stream last week. But hopefully this time he can turn his form around then towards where we go. And then, oh, blimey, there's a McLaren right in front of us as well then. Oh, my goodness me. Not sure if that was unsighting then for Kiki then. But he has got himself through the hairpin unscathed then, and I think that McLaren that just wasn't aware of the speeding Mercedes coming through into that hairpin section as well then. But there we go, now into sector 2 then for Kiki, then flying through then. Can he get himself onto the front row once again then with his teammate Ultimate Beast? Then can they lock out the front row for Mercedes, as we've seen many times in normal F1 history, but not so much then in ALR history then. But let's see if they can repeat the feat here in Saudi Arabia then. Up to sector 3 then, DRS enabled then towards the start finish line, well, towards the final corner first, then towards the start finish line. ERS light flashing away. Maybe he's harvesting energy already then as we go into the final turn then for Kiki. Let's see what it's going to be then up to the line for the Mercedes driver. Then can he get himself onto the front row? Can he get himself on pole position here? Let's see. And it is the front row of the grid then at 27.9. Then he is less than half a second away, half a tenth I should say, away from his teammate of Ultimate Beast and the championship leader Ultimate Beast currently as well then. Good stuff indeed. Here comes Mumford then. He's starting off a lap then. It's going to be interesting to see what Mumford can do now on the soft compound tyres. That time he has done is on the medium compound tyres. Duke has jumped up to P3 with a 28.3 as well. Good stuff indeed from the Haas driver, looking formidable indeed. ALR says Equaz then evening from Gerben, then oh god evening from Mushroom, and Molina has said something Tonto as well. I think supporting Tonto. I think it is Finnish. Or from Finland is that word, but I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, so I'm very sorry if I don't want to try and butcher it. But yeah, there we go. Mumford then is coming through into sector 2 then. We'll want to see what Mumford could do now. That time, a 28.4 is on the medium compound tyres. Everybody else, I believe, has undone the time on the soft compound tyres, so we'll have to wait and see what Mumford can do then on the softs this time as well then into sector 3 very, very shortly. Let's have a look and see what time it's going to be then. He is almost 0.3 of a second up. That would be enough for the front row then, but it would be enough to jump him up to potentially P3 as it stands then. Kamara Racer then has occupied that P3 position now, win the Williams car then, a 28.2 then to beat then for Mumford. Can he get himself even more improvement then through sector 3 into the final turn then for the Alpine car? Let's see what he can do then up to the line then. He's gone very, very shallow then in the final turn then, not going into that wall like Max Verstappen did very early on. Then here he comes up to the line. It's a 28.0 then, not enough for the front row as it stands then for Mumford for the Alpine, and he stays, well, he goes up to P3, but he stays behind the 2 Mercedes as it stands as well then. Good stuff indeed then out of the field then. We've got Sweet OJP getting a nice little toe, I think, there from a McLaren, but I don't think it's intentional then, because I'm not quite sure what that McLaren is doing then. Oh my goodness me, what was going on there for Kydell then? He's off the circuit and flown around the circuit. Here comes Sweet OJP, then the other Alpine up to the line. It's P4 for Sweet OJP, another 28.0 then, both the Alpines on a 28.0 then onto the, we're locking out the second row of the grid then. So it's a Mercedes 1-2, an Alpine 3-4 as it stands then. Good stuff indeed. If they can keep that coordinated and throughout the rest of the order, that'd be fantastic. But I'm not sure that's going to be the case then. But there we are then. Just the OCD kicking in for me. Here comes Plotters then, of course, P3 in his first outing, his first full-time appearance in silver last week. Let's see what he can do here in Saudi Arabia then. Round 2, of course. Then here he comes then up to the final corner, then putting the brake pressure on then as he goes around the final corner, then almost losing the back end there as well, trying to step into that wall then, just like Max Verstappen, but he kept it under control then, but he's coming back into the pit lane now, so never mind. Tonto has unfortunately used quite a lot of his airs then, so he's not going to be going too fast on this lap. Unfortunately, 5 seconds down then. We'll come back to him then. R2 Beat is powering on then. He is powering through into Sector 3. He is just up on his time as it stands then. Can he get that time? Can he gain that time, I should say, then in Sector 3? We'll have to find out then. There's a lot of ERS management going on, especially on these qualifying laps as well then, with the new ERS modes that come into play then at the beginning of this game as well then. So it's interesting to see what the driver's going to be doing, which one's the preferred strategy then to get yourself as quickly around this circuit as possible. Then deployment used then for R2B, then up to the line then for the Ferrari. Then he stays P15, but he does improve very slightly then on his time. Good stuff. Goodness me, I'm trying to keep up in this qualifying. It's been absolutely epic. But everybody now calming down, I think, then in the pit lane. The majority of the drivers then in the pit lane. Mr. Elite is not in the pit lane. Mr. Elite is coming through into Sector 2. Then he is a 10th.5 up on his time. Where would that put him? It unfortunately wouldn't gain him any places as it stands then, but can he improve further through Sector 2 and Sector 3? We will wait and see then. Donna the Don says, good afternoon then. It's night time, says Serious Mushroom then. But of course, Donna the Don is in Canada, if you didn't know. But there we are then. And Ultimate Beast said, yo, as well then. Ultimate Beast currently on pole position, then looking comfortable out there as well. Then he is staying in the pit lane for the time being. I think he's only done one run on those soft compound tyres. So, well, that is going to be quite good indeed. Then if he can hold on to an extra set of soft compound tyres for the Grand Prix as well, then we are expecting a few safety cars around here because it is a treacherous circuit. We saw a couple of safety cars last night in gold as well then. Here comes Mr. Elite then round the final corner then, making sure, oh dear, that car is getting squirrely indeed on the power as well. Then unfortunately, Mr. Elite, that's going to be very costly indeed in terms of improving on his time then. But he has improved on his time then by half a second, then puts himself up into P16 ahead of his teammate of Kydell, which is a good lap time indeed then. Both the McLarens then fighting very closely indeed in the opening stages of this season. And he has put himself ahead in the order for the time being. RTB just recovering to the pit lane now as well. Then Reflections back out on a lap. Unfortunately for both of the racing bulls, then neither of them have set a time just so far, and they are P19 and P20 respectively. A Reflection locking up then into the hairpin as well, then on the outlap as well. That is pushing pretty hard then on the outlap, it looks like. Mr. Elite has got time, I think, to get himself back to the pit lane potentially and go back out again. We will wait and see. We've got a few outlaps starting then for his teammate Kydell, then for Reflection and for Kamara Racer. Both the Williams are out there on their push laps very shortly indeed. Kydell has started his final push lap then for the session, I think then. And let's see what Kydell can do then in the McLaren, then flying through, then the Haas getting out of the way very nicely indeed. And now through turn 4 then. This is a very treacherous corner. We saw retirements there as well last night in gold, and we've seen retirements there in real life F1 as well, to be fair. But I think it's one that you can get very wrong, especially if you're pushing hard then in qualifying. And Kydell then has got himself through then into Sector 2. Now he's 2/10 up on his time. That will put him into the range to potentially of R2 Beat if he can hold on to that gain in the rest of the lap. Then through the hairpin we go then for Kydell. Ultimate Beast has left the session, and I'm not quite sure if Ultimate Beast is just ego retiring there or ego leaving the session there, but he needs to get himself back in pretty quickly. He's only got 2 minutes left of qualifying here. I'm not sure that's going to leave him enough time to actually get himself back out to go for another run. Potentially he could lose the pole position as it stands. But we will have to wait and see then, as here comes Kydell then flying through into Sector 2, now Sector 3 now I should say then. Getting out of the way then is the Red Bull car, then flying now into the final couple of corners then for Kydell, then around turn 26 and up towards turn 27. Then there's yellow flags fluttering. I think it's just for cars getting out of the way then into the final turn then for the McLaren. He's clouted the wall as well then in the final turn. That's not good news for Kydell. Then up to the line. What can he do then in the McLaren? He is improved by only just under a 10th of a second. It's not enough of an improvement. He gained a lot of time in Sector 1 then, but that is not enough now for Kydell. I think that's his qualifying done and dusted. Reflections had an issue then, and that is what the yellow flags are for, I'm sure, then for Reflections Williams, I should say, that's had an issue then in Sector 2. And just recovering now as well then. He has got himself out of the way there, but unfortunately for Reflection, I think that's his qualifying done and dusted as well here. Ultimate Beast is not back in the session then, so Ultimate Beast is going to have a few issues if he can't get himself into the race. Dan is taking more key keys. says Equaz. Then Ultimate Beast has joined back, but unfortunately he's not joined back in time then to try and fight for his pole position. Then unless the other drivers do not improve, he will not be on pole position, I'm pretty sure, then, because there's lots of track evolution around here, and we will probably see that in the next few seconds indeed. Kiki on an outlap, then just finishing off that outlap. He is starting off his flying lap now. We need to find out who is going to be next across the line, really, don't we? But I can't. Mr. Elite is retired, then he's in the pit lane, then is Mr. Elite, he's done and dusted, then into the box, then comes Reflection as well, then he has finished in qualifying here as well. We've got Farf then on a, Farf is on a outlap, but I'm not quite sure he's going to reach the line. Then no, he's not. Then unfortunately for Farf, then so he has not done a time in this qualifying session. Ultimate Beast has finished, but he is back in the session, at least that is. So that is good news. Plotter's then up into P6 with 28.2. Then here come the times. Then they're going to start tumbling in now as well. Here comes Duke. Then up to the line. What's it going to be then for Duke? Then he stays P7. Yeah, no, where is he? He stays P7 then, but Riyadh then has done 27.7 in the Red Bull car to put himself on pole position as well as it stands. Duke has left the session. That's great timing indeed. I'm not quite sure what's going on out there, but Ultimate Beast dropping down to P3 because Mumford is onto the front row then with a 27.8, and he is only 5 thousandths of a second ahead of Ultimate Beast as well. Then Smooth P up into P5. Then here comes, we'll come back to him because sorry, we'll go back to Nigel. Nigel's back in the pit lane, and he's abandoned his time. Then here comes Kian in the other Sauber. And what can the other Sauber do then? He is improving on his time. Then up to the line then for Kian. Then it is P12 for Kian. Then here comes Kiki. Can Kiki challenge then for pole position? Let's see what he can do then up to the line then for the Mercedes driver. Then it's going to be close. It's pole position for Kiki then in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And what a time indeed then for Kiki. And he's 27.595. Then that is almost a tenth and a half faster than Riyadh then. And Riyadh took pole position quite comfortably, it looked like at the time then. But now Kiki then back on pole position then, or back up to pole position I should say then, with a fantastic lap time indeed. A 27.5 then beats my time for sure, but that's not a competition really. But there we go then. Duke has joined back then, but unfortunately I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able to take the race or take the formation lap start, that is. But there is your classification then for qualifying. Then Kiki on pole position with a fantastic final lap. Then Riyadh in P2, a great lap from him as well. Then Mumford P3 in the Alpine. Then Ultimate Beast with that disconnection then starting P4 at best then on the grid. Then Swim to P5. Then Duke in P6. Hopefully he's back in the car. Kamara P7. Then Plotters P8. Then Nigel P9. Gordo rounds off the top 10. Then Vessia in P11. Then Kian P12. Jay Hings P13. R2 Pete P14. Tonto P15. Mr. Elite P16. Kydell P17, Reflection P18, and unfortunately for Speed Kai and Farth in the Racing Bulls that couldn't get a lap time on the board. What a qualifying that was. That was epic stuff indeed. Unfortunately, Roll to Beast, we didn't get to see what he would have done on his final run then because he had that disconnect then. But hopefully he will be back in the race then to put on a show then. Tonto said has great race pace, says Equaz, so we'll see what he can do then in the Grand Prix. Facts, says Serious Mushroom. Then evening from Kia as well. Then good evening to yourself, sir, as well. Then and there we are. We have got a few. Hang on, we've got a few things to do first. We need to get on ourselves a nice word from our lovely sponsors. So stay tuned. We'll be back very, very shortly. Right then, we are ready to get ourselves underway then. If you haven't checked out the ALR shop, then please do and check out 3D Track Prints, our title sponsor then for the 11th season of ALR this season. And here we are then. This is the starting grid then for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix round 2 of ALR Silver Season 8 then. And here we are. We've got, well, we'll start from the back, shall we? Because that's where Farf is. Farf on the hard compound tyres then in the Racing Bull. Then his teammate Speed Kai on the medium compound tyres in P19. Then Reflection on the hards in P18 in the Williams. Then we've got both McLarens on the medium compound tyres, 16th and 17th for them respectively. Then Tonto on the medium compound tyres. He's got good race pace, has Equaz. So let's see what he can do then on the medium compound tyres to start off this race in P15. Hard compound tyres, Ferratu beat in the Ferrari and Jay Hings in the Aston Martin. Jay Hings did a great job then. His first silver appearance last week in the Bahrain Grand Prix then, and he got himself some good points then for the Aston Martin team. Kian in the Sauber is lagging all over the place. Brilliant. Vessia then on the soft compound tyres as well. He's only driver on the grid then on the soft compounds then is Vessia then. So looking for a fast start in the Ferrari, get himself into the top 10 as quickly as possible. Then Gordo on the medium compound tyres, P10 for him on his first outing as well. Then Nigel P9 on the hard compound tyres. Everybody from P8 then up to P2. That's Plotters P8, then Camaro P7, Duke in P6, Sweet 100P in P5, Ultimate Beast in P4, Mumford in P3, and Riyadh in P2 are on the medium compound tyres. And our pole sitter then, our championship contender potentially as well. Then we saw some great pace from Kiki then in the first race of the season. He is on the hard compound tyres in P1 then. He seems to be a bit far back though, so I'm not quite sure what's happened to him on the formation lap then, but there we go. Hopefully he can get himself back in his grid slot then. Of course, if it was actual F1 rules, I don't think you'd be able to, as a Sauber's having a few issues as well on his formation lap, I don't think you'd be able to get yourself back through the grid then, because you're not allowed to just go through other cars in real life, but you are in the game of course, so there we go. So good stuff indeed then. We are ready, I think, very shortly to get ourselves racing then for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and just waiting then for the cars to align themselves up on the grid. Once we got everybody lined up on the grid, then we can get ourselves started, hopefully, for the 25 laps that are going to unfold around this this new Jeddah Corniche circuit, of course. But now we've got all the Racing Bulls lined up. Then hopefully we get some 5 red lights. Oh, DRS disabled. Then what's going on here? We haven't got DRS just yet. Lights out and away we go. And good start then from Riyadh down on the medium compound tyres. Then he's going to go down the inside then of Kiki. And no, he's not. Then he's lost the car then on the brakes. And he's had an issue then. And there's a Haas who's had an issue as well. And there's a Reflection. Goodness me, what has happened there? And I think what's going on here, there's all sorts of flickering going on as well. I'm not quite sure if people are in the session or not. But goodness me. Blimey, what is going on? The Aston Martins fighting side by side through Sector 1, disqualified from Duke Scar, I think that is, but unfortunately he didn't get moving off the grid. Plotters has dropped down the field. I think it's sorted itself out. Has it? Oh, goodness me, I can't tell. But yes, I think we're still racing, and I think the 19 drivers are still racing. Unfortunately for Riyadh, then we just had a massive lockup then going into turn 1 then, and that had cost him dearly then the race lead potentially, because he was going to go alongside Kiki then for the into turn 1, I should say, then for the race lead, but locked up then, spun the car into the wall then, and that has been very costly then for P2 the driver who's qualified P2, Riyadh, then down the back of the order now as well. Ultimate Beast up into P2 as well. Then he's on the charge. Then Ultimate Beast, then after losing out on his pole position, he is now charging up to the front of the field. Then right behind his teammate of Kiki now as we finish off lap 1 here. And I think that is just paramount to why you don't join in the formation lap then, because unfortunately for Duke Scar. Goodness me, I'm like Sean trying to pronounce people's names here. But yeah, unfortunately for Duke, anyway, he unfortunately had to retire then. Oh my goodness me, Beast then almost doing the same as Riyadh then into turn 1. It's getting treacherous out there then for the Mercedes and for the Red Bulls. It looks like trying to hold on to the car, but this time Ultimate Beast has managed it. Unfortunately for Riyadh, he's having to come back to the pit then with that front wing damage then sustained by his lockup then on the first corner then. Before we finished the first corner, he is into the pits then for Riyadh then. The new front wing underway then. Ultimate Beast now is trying to check out in front of his teammate then. Here Kiki is actually holding up the rest of the pack then very nicely indeed then for Ultimate Beast as we go in towards Sector 2. Here comes Mumford then trying to go down the inside into the hairpin. Then can Mumford get himself through on the Mercedes of Kiki? The hard compound tyre is not not warmed up enough just yet then, as Duke has retired. But he already has retired on my screen, but I'm not quite sure what is going on there. Yeah, unfortunately then for Duke, then I'm not going to be able to take the start of this Grand Prix then after joining on the formation lap. We've had an issue then for Reflection. Reflection's had a spin then somewhere in Sector 2. Now he's got himself back underway, then hopefully there's no damage then, but there isn't any damage as far as we can tell then, but there potentially might be some unseen damage then for Reflection. Speed, Kai and Farf then switching places, then Farf now dropping down behind his teammate who's on the medium compound tyres, who should be faster, should Speed Kai at this stage of the race, but we'll have to wait and see which strategy is going to unfold, which strategy is going to be the best for these drivers as well as we get ourselves further into the Grand Prix as well. Then great stuff indeed. Unfortunate stuff for Duke and for Riyadh on the opening lap. Caught in 4K, says Serious Mushroom then. Tyres are hard to warm up, aren't they, says Gordo. Yes, they are indeed. As we go into turn 1, there's a Mercedes, there's an Alpine, there's a Sauber, there's a Red Bull. No, it's not a Red Bull, it's a red car, it's a Ferrari. But Vessier has got himself through then past the kick Sauber then of Kian up into P4 now for the Ferrari car. Looking good on those soft compound tyres for this stage of the race then, of course. How long can they hold out then on those soft compound tyres? That is, we will find out, of course, in the next few laps or so. Then we've got 25 laps, a very short number of laps around this circuit, but of course it is a very fast-paced circuit indeed then, as we go into the hairpin then to finish off the Sector 1 then of lap 3. And coming round now then, Mumford has got a 1.8 second gap then to the race leader of Ultimate Beast then, who's checked out now. Kiki did a good job then of protecting his teammate in the opening stages of his race on the hard compound tyres. Now those hard compound tyres might be warmed up enough then to try and chase down Mumford and get himself back ahead of the Alpine then with some DRS assistance as well then. DRS enabled then from the end of lap 1 then, instead of lap 2 then on the previous games, on previous F1 iterations that is, because of course the rules have changed. And now we've got Kiki then on the hunt then. We've got Kian on the hunt as well then of Vessia then in towards the final couple of quarters then of lap 3. And oh my goodness, I hit myself with the mic. Oh dear, Kian starting to lag all over the place as well then, so that's great stuff indeed then. And yeah, couldn't take control of my car, says Duke then. Yeah, I think that we've seen that issue before then, as we've had an issue for Nigel then. Nigel's had an issue then at the final corner, getting himself back underway then is Nigel. Then Mr. Elite is in the pit lane as well. Then Mr. Elite's got some issues to sort out too. Then here comes Nigel into the box, then he slowed the car down just in time. Then Mr. Elite is in the box then for a wing change, and there is no front. I'm thinking that maybe Nigel and Mr. Elite got involved there, but not quite sure what happened between the two of them. Then Riyadh then is back and away. He's on the hard compound tyres now as Riyadh then in soldering on out there. Nigel has got himself a new front wing and onto a set of medium compound tyres. Kamara's got the first penalty then of the evening. Then that's a 3-second penalty for them for the Williams driver. And oh goodness, that'll be added onto his race time. Then we might see penalties start to rack up around here then, because there's quite a few fast-paced corners and fast-paced chicanes then where you can extend track limits. Then we might see a few drivers pick up a few penalties in this stage of the race then. But so far, Kamara then has got that the first penalty then of the evening then, but there might be quite a few then coming up for a few drivers then out in front. Mumford on the charge. Look at Mumford go. He's almost got himself back in DRS range then of the race leader, Ultimate Beast then. He is pushing on hard then, is the Alpine driver, to get himself in that decent DRS window of the Mercedes driver then, but not quite then for the time being. Then Kiki holding on those hard compound tyres. Vessi has got himself up into P4 now on the soft compound tyres and looking strong out there indeed as well. Then here comes a move then for the Red Bull then down the inside at turn 27. Then can he get himself past Kamara? Kamara's got in the wall there. A bit too much space left then from Kamara Racer, but oh dear, Kian lagging all over the place once again then as we go down towards turn 1 and 2. Then here comes the quartet then, and Gordo has got himself past Plotters then into P7 now for the Aston Martin. Good stuff indeed then for the Aston Martin out here, both of them running in the points as it stands. Looking strong indeed then for Aston Martin out here, and for both Mercedes and for both Alpines, I should say as well then, but I don't want to jinx it, but I've jinxed all three of them now, haven't I? So there we go. Very sorry indeed, but so far so good then, as Sick as Muck has joined. And there's a Ferrari of Vessia then off the circuit. Then Vessia's had an issue then through into Sector 2. And those soft compound tyres potentially have overheated a bit too much now. And they might have been pushing the limits then for Vessia as we go through the hairpin now as well. Unfortunately, was from P4, I should say, then down to P12 now, and we've got Farf all over the back of him as well. Then that is definitely not where you want to be, and he's got wing damage there. Has Vest here as well. Then so that is why he'll be not competitive through those chicanes as quickly as much as everybody else. Then in towards the final couple of quarters of Sector 2. Then there's racing balls all over the place there, and blimey, I thought that was going to end in something bad, but thankfully not. Then Speed Car has got himself ahead of his teammate and ahead of Vessia. Then in one DRS swoop, and now ahead into P12. Then R2B and J Hings then switching places then into the final quarter. Then R2B is dropping down. Then J Hings and R2B on the hard compound tyres. So that is interesting stuff to see. But we've got a change for the lead. Then Ultimate Beast has lost out then to Mumford. Mumford on the charge, and look at him go. Then Kydell picks up a penalty as well. Then unfortunately Kydell, that is bad news for him. At Kamara Racer, then the only two drivers with penalties so far. But the penalties, like I said, will start to roll in then in the latter stages then of this race. Then we're only on lap 6 of 25 then, but so far it's been epic stuff indeed, and I can't keep up with it all, as I've just seen without missing the as Vess has got a penalty as well. Then we've just seen by missing the race lead change, but so far so good. Then Kiki's dropped out of the DRS range then of the top two. Then that's going to be bad news for Kiki if he can't hold on to that 1 second window. Then as we go through the hairpin now onto lap 6, here we go then. Flying through then. Mumford is rapid this season, said Serious Mushroom. Yes, he is. He has taken the lead of the Grand Prix, but Beach is going to challenge all the way, I think. Then both of them on medium compound tyres as we head through Sector 2 now. DRS now available then for the Mercedes driver as we head through Sector 2. Goodness me. Elsewhere then, Plotters all over the back of Gordo. Gordo's up into P6 now as well with that spin for Vessia, then trying to hold on then to Sweet GP then in the Alpine, then flying through into Sector 3 here, but I don't think Gordo is in DRS range then. He might be actually just about, but I don't think he's in that, he's not going to be in that 1 second window then for very long. Then, oh, yes he is, then he's used some deployment then to get himself back in that window then very nicely indeed, and now into the 1 second window then of the Alpine. Yeah, Plotters then sticking close indeed. Then there's a change once again for the lead, then down towards turn 1. Then Ultra Beast takes back the race lead then into turn 1. Then he's back up into P1. Then Kian has got himself past Kiki. Has he? No, he hasn't, because Kiki has gone through him, and not quite sure what has gone on there. Kian is lagging all over the place then, so I think one of the admins needs to try and sort him out then, as we've got Speed Kai having an issue then into turn 1. Then he's ghosted, but he's unghosted now. Tonto's gone through then into P11. Then can Tonto get himself into the points pair positions? We saw from Equaz, we heard from Equaz then that he has got some good race pace then. So far so good then into P11. Then we'll switch on to the position changes quickly to see what's going on around here. 3-4 Ultimate Beast then of course starting P4. Then Mumford up 1 as well. Then Kian up 9, but I'm not quite sure how accurate that is. Then Tonto's had an issue then, just as I said that, I've cursed him, as Tonto's had an issue then through the chicane then in towards Sector 2, unfortunately dropping down to P14, but like I was saying, that we've had a few position changes. The Gordo up into P6 from P10 as well, but he's under pressure now from Plotters then as we go through into Sector 2, in towards Sector 3 now, and Plotters now up into P6 then ahead now of the Aston Martin. He takes the position away, and now on the charge then for, oh dear, we've got the yellow flags then. For yellow flags, it's for a Haas then. It's Tonto's had an issue somewhere as well. Then he's trying to get himself back on the circuit again. Then he's had a spin, and I think those tyres are just overheating now for the Haas car, unfortunately. Then he's not got any wing damage as far as I can tell. Yeah, unfortunately then for Tonto, then he has had 2 spins on this lap only as well then. So those tyres must be very, very hot indeed. And just trying to keep the car cool then, keep those tyres cool then. Ultimate sets the fastest lap of the race. Then Kian and Kiki then switching places as well. Kiki back into the points pair positions. Sorry, into the podium places, I should say then, as the top 2 still spread away then in the lead of this Grand Prix onto lap 8 now as well. We fly as we've got some more changes then. The Sweet Repeat got himself past Kian now as well. Then Kian, I think, having a few issues out there. R2B has retired from the race then. What's happened to R2B then as we go through turn 4 then? And there is the Ferrari. It's a virtual safety car. I think it's a virtual safety car. It's not a safety car just yet, but a virtual safety car then. That is going to be interesting stuff indeed. Then let's have a look and see what tyres everyone's on then, because we're going to have some pit stops potentially here if the VSC stays out long enough, that is. So there we are then. R2B, unfortunately, the first casualty, or the second casualty really, but the first casualty on track then after Duke couldn't take the race start with the glitch then at the formation lap then. But unfortunately, Ratu beat. He is the first casualty then of this Grand Prix. Into the pits comes Riyadh. Then he is onto the box. Then calling it a day. R2B has left the session. Unfortunately for R2B, he is out of the race, which is our first retirement, or first official retirement, I should say then. But a big shame then for R2B. He was going strong on the hard compound tyres. Farf has got a drive-through penalty then for speeding under the VSC, and that is bad news for him. Then not R2B, Mr. Elite then comes through into P17 ahead of Riyadh, who of course has just pitted for a fresh set of medium compound tyres, and back underway. Right then, it's still out. Oh wait, so the VSC is still out though on my screen. So how's he got a penalty for speeding under the VS? Maybe he was just speeding under the VSC naturally then. Okay. Not quite sure what happened there. We'll have a look at the penalty situations, because I think we've only got one drive through then. So Farf and Speed Kai, they're overtaken under the VSC as well at the same time. So interesting stuff indeed. Not sure what's happening there, but as Jay Hings has let people through as well. Was he coming out the pit lane then? I'm not quite... Oh, goodness me, I have no idea what's going on here, to be honest. Gordo's got a 10-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Oh, my goodness me, there was a... I'm not sure what's happened. I think the VSC is gone for some of the drivers out here, but it's not gone for me, so... goodness... yeah, goodness knows what's happening. Speed Kai's got a 3-second penalty then for the track warnings. Yeah, I think it's gone. Oh, it's gone now. Great. Oh, no, there was coming back. Never mind. We don't know what's going on. Reflection's got a 10-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Yeah, I think what we can do really is just review those penalties after the race then, and of course get that sorted after the race. But so carry on then, carry on as you were basically, guys. We will sort the penalties out after the Grand Prix, and yeah, just make sure you got a copy of your race directors, and when you serve the penalties, etc. as well. Then Ultra Beast has lost out then to Mumford once again. Then here he comes back on the charge, then down towards the first turn, then on to lap 10 now for the top two as it stands then. And can he make a move then to turn one? No, he's too far back then for Beast to make a lunge. Then he stays behind. Then Kamara Racer's been passed. He's into the pits, this Kamara Racer. He's been passed by Jay Hings then, who has got himself up into P7 now as well on the hard compound tyres, working well then for Jay Hings. So far so good then. What is Kamara going to do then? What is he going to go on to is the next call of action, I should say, then for the Williams. He's onto the hard compound tyres and away he goes. So that is good stuff indeed. I think he might come out ahead of his teammate here. Where is Kamara then? No, he's not going to be ahead of his teammate then. He's going to be close on the exit of turn one. Almost into the wall, I thought they went Kamara then, but there is his teammate then, a Reflection and Kian. Then they're on much. Oh, well, not they're not on older tyres. Kian has pitted, of course, to a fresh set of hards as well. Then under that VSC, so he's jumped Kamara Racer then in that pit stop phase. Then Farf then is into P12 then, but of course he has not pitted at this stage of the race. Then he served his drive-through penalty there. So I think when the VSC did. Carry on for me, when he got that penalty, he was actually back racing again, so he could serve the penalty in the pit lane when I was still under the impression there was a VSC out there. So that's why that's that then. So that's all sorted. So good stuff indeed then. Gordo is now trying to put the pressure on Plotters then. We've got yellow flags then for a Haas. Yellow flags for a Haas. It's Tonto. Tonto's had another issue at the same place then in Sector 2. Unfortunately for him, then Gordo's got himself up into P5. Then yellow flags still flashing away then, but Tonto's got himself back underway. No, we haven't. We've got more yellow flags then somewhere. Goodness me, what is going on out here? Yeah. I can't tell. I've completely lost what's going on in this race. It's all over the place. But there we are then. Kian then is technically the net race leader, I would imagine, at this stage then on those hard compound tyres. But of course, there is plenty of pit stops still to unfold then. And we've got another problem then for Tonto, who's had another issue there. And my goodness me, then Tonto is not having a great race, and I think Equaz has cursed him, but he has got wing damage this time as well as Tonto, so hopefully he can get himself back to the pit lane then to sort that out. Then Riyadh still soldiering on out there as well. Then fair play to Riyadh, then he is going strong on those new medium compound tyres. Of course, he did pit under the VSC as well. Then can he get to the end of the Grand Prix from here? Potentially, we will have to wait and see. Right then, out in front then, 2-second gap then between the top two and Kiki. Then here he is then coming through into the chicane. Then right in the background there was the second Mercedes then. Ultimate Beast then trying to cling on to Mumford for the time being, then hold on to that race lead for Mumford for the time being as well. Then these two of course battled then to the podium then in Bahrain last week. Then Ultimate Beast taking the race win, and Mumford P2. Can they reverse the feat then, reverse the roles then in this second race of the season, and then can they keep themselves on the charge as Tonto has retired in the pit lane? And Mr. Elite's had a spin there. Plotters then has got himself back past Gordo into the final turn, then on to lap 12 then for these two as well then very shortly. Yeah, unfortunately for Mr. Elite's had a spin somewhere there at the beginning of the lap. Then into the pits comes Ultimate Beast, then Beast is into the pit lane, so is Sweet 100p, then so is Plotters. And they are going for the hard compound tyres, it looks like then. Ultimate Beast is back underway then onto the hard compound tyres, and where will he come out then in respect to his rivals? Trundling down the pit lane, then Speed Car has gone through, then he's stayed out there on 11 lap old medium compound tyres for the time being, that is. Out of the pit lane now then comes Beast, then he's going to be in P6, then ahead of Kian, ahead of Reflection. Yeah, but where will Kian come out then in respect to Plotters as well then? No, he's behind unfortunately then for the Sauber driver, but he stays in the top 10 for the time being, then into the points then still for Kian. And of course he's on much more warmed up tyres then. We can see then with Plotters then those tyres starting to struggle then on the cold temperatures as he come out the pit lane there, but he has got himself back underway then. Tonto has left the session unfortunately for him. Not a good first race as well. We've got we've got Farf out of the race as well. Where's he gone? He's had an issue. He's smashed the car at turn 4, same as R2B. Unfortunately, there's not even a VSC for Farf. Then that shows how little the game cares about him. Blimey, that was a big smash there for Farf. Then, and he has he's out of the race. So 4 retirements already. Then, 3 retirements then, and 1 DSQ then for lagging out then and not being able to take the race start, which is a bit unfortunate then for Duke. Hopefully that will be sorted out then. Into the pits comes Mumford then in the Alpine. Then Gordo stays on the medium compound tyres. He's soldiering on in P2 for the time being as well. Then of course Gordo did get a podium in Saudi Arabia then last season. It was a bit more carnage than we've had so far then, but hopefully that doesn't jinx it. We're only about halfway through this Grand Prix so far then. Speed Car carries on then. Hard compound tyres from Mumford. Where will he come out then in respect to his rival of Ultimate Beast? On the pit lane exit, and here he comes then. It's going to be tight indeed between the Mercedes and the Alpine once again. Then there is Mumford. He is behind Ultimate Beast then just by 0.3 of a second. So it was very close indeed between the two of them. Then Mumford then pushing very hard on his in lap. And of course, Ultimate Beast trying to push as hard as he can. Then on the out lap as well, on those cold tyres, then he has got 1 lap hotter tyres or warmer tyres than Mumford. Then so he has to try and extend the gap as much as he can then in this next phase. But Mumford will be trying to keep within that DRS window, of course, then into the final couple of sectors here of lap 13. Nigel picked up a penalty, unfortunately for Nigel, then struggling out there on the medium compound tyres. He is not having a good time out there somehow. I think picking up 2 there, so that was interesting. But now into sector 2, then here comes Mumford. Then he's on the back of Ultimate Beast. Then can they catch the top 4 as quickly as they can? There 4 seconds separates Beast then as Plotters picks up a penalty as well. Then coming through into sector 2 then for the Red Bull driver. That's bad news for him, of course. Podium sitter then in the Bahrain Grand Prix only a week ago. But here comes Mumford then on the charge, and those tyres now up into temperature. Then here he comes on the attack then for the net race lead. I'm about to burp. Sorry. So, there we go then. Here comes Mumford then into the final turn. Then can he make a move? Then as Mr. Elite picks up a penalty as well then for his troubles. Then into the final couple of corners then for the race or net race leaders. Then into the pits comes Gordo. Then here comes Mumford then for the net race lead down towards turn 1. Then he's got himself ahead of the Mercedes and he's up into P4 on track. And he's now into that range then for the race win potentially. Here we've only got 12 laps remaining then after this one. It has been a pretty epic opening stage or opening half then to the Grand Prix. Then Kamara Racer got himself ahead now of Gordo. Has he? It's close between the two of them. Then on the exit, then Kamara. Oh my goodness me, then Kamara. Is there wing damage then for Gordo? My goodness me, Kamara almost losing the back end there. And I think that might have been very costly then for Gordo. Then it seems like he's okay. Well, there's no visible damage then for me, but blimey, that was very close indeed. I thought we saw something fly up then. Might be a bit of polystyrene then from a brake marker board or something like that then, but Gordo's gone wide then through the chicane then. Could indicate some wing damage then as Reflection coming out of the pit lane now. Where will he come out? Ahead of Riyadh? I think he'll be ahead of Riyadh then, just about then into turns 1 and 2 then for Williams. Good stuff indeed then, back underway. Right then. Oh my goodness, it's 2.7 seconds the gap between Mumford and the top 3. Of course, the top 3 yet to pit here in this race so far as we go in towards the dying stages then of lap 14. Then Kiki is in the pit lane, and so Kiki is calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres. Jay Hings then carrying on, is he? Jay Hings is carrying on here as well. Speed Kai then is coming around the final corner then to finish off lap 14 for him. Kaidell's got a 3-second medal for for track limits. Then Speed Kai has carried on here. On the medium compound tyres. Mumford sets the fastest lap of the race, but here comes Beast. Nope, where is he? There is he. There he is, into turn 1, but not quite. Then here comes Kiki out of the pit lane. And where will he be in respect to his rivals as well? Then out of the pit lane behind Sweet MJP then, but ahead of the Red Bull of Plotters then, of course, who just picked up that penalty as well then. Penalties, like I said, starting to roll in here as well. It's going to be a very penalty-friendly circuit indeed, as Jay Hings then picks up the penalty as well. Then unfortunately for Jay Hings, then he's yet to pit in the Aston Martin. And when will he come in the pit lane? We will wait and see. Then almost drifting around the hairpin there as well. Then those hard compound tyres, I think, starting to struggle up there. Medium compound tyres for Speed Kai, they must be struggling as well, I'm sure. But he has carried on out here as well. Then Mumford almost in DRS range then of the Racing Bulls car, and that will be very good stuff indeed then to defend himself from Ultimate Beast then, but also to attack then to get himself back in the lead of this Grand Prix on lap 15. Bad luck to R2 then for long season as well, though, says Serious Mushroom. Then Rick, of course, it is R2. It says rare DNF then from my side, of course. Yes, it is very rare actually. But yeah, unfortunate then the as Farfus left the session. Then unfortunately, like I said, the treacherous circuit then of Saudi Arabia then has claimed another victim. But here comes Ultimate Beast then on the charge. Then he's claimed another victim as well. Then up into P3. Then onto the back now of Speed Kai. Here we go then down towards turn 1. How quickly can he catch up then? How quickly can he get past as Speed Kai does carry on again then, and Ultimate Beast sets the fastest lap of the race this time. Then here he goes into P1, he takes back P1 I should say, and up into the race lead, back up into the race lead as well then for Ultimate Beast. Then Speed Kai, Jay Hings then coming out the pit lane now. Where will he come out in relation to his teammate, that is, and he's got a bit of a battle on his hands as well then with Kamara Racer also involved here down the start finish straight. Then Kamara Racer on the back of his teammate of Gordo, not quite though, and Jay Hings coming out the pit lane there. Where is Kamara Racer this time? In front of another Aston Martin then, but it's Jay Hings this time then, and these two, he's now in a bit of an Aston Martin sandwich. Then is Kamara Racer then coming through into turn 4, and he's held on to the position for the time being. That is, Mumford has got himself past Speed Kai then, but has he lost out of the DRS range then to Ultimate Beast? That would be very terrible news for Mumford. If that is the case, then we will wait and see then into Sector 2. Then I think it's just under that 1 second window for the time being, which is good news then for the Alpine, not good news for the Mercedes driver, of course. But here we go then. And yes, DRS then will be available then for Mumford. And as we go through Sector 2 then into Sector 3, then can he get himself back into range then of the race lead? Kiki is 3.6 seconds behind Speed Kai. He's got himself a bit of a gap then to try and gain then on the two hard runners then of Ultimate Beast and his other rival then of Mumford as well. Then Jay Hings has got himself past Kamara Racer then into P9 for Jay Hings. Then like I was saying, Jay Hings did a great job then in his first silver full-time appearance then last week then to get himself some good points for himself and Aston Martin, and looks like he's on course potentially again then to get some points then for himself and the team then, which is great stuff indeed, after being promoted from bronze last season. Speed Kai has carried on then on the medium compound tyres once again. I think Speed Kai, like Farf last week in the Racing Bulls, has forgotten that he has to pit at some point in this race, unless it does rain then, unless there's rain forecasted. I'm not quite sure we're going to see any rain in this race. We'll have to wait and see. But I seriously doubt it. But there we go then, yellow flags fluttering then for a McLaren, and it's a problem then for Kaidell then at the hairpin. Then he's got himself back underway then, but unfortunately for Kaidell, they're not having a good race out there here tonight. He was struggled then through the hairpin once again then, and that has cost him a spin for the McLaren team. And there we go then, unfortunately for Kaidell, they're not going his way for the time being. Then hopefully that can turn around in the next few stages as well then. Speed Kai then doing a good job of holding on to onto that DRS range then of the leaders. That could pull him along very nicely indeed then for the latter part, I should say, of this race, especially if he's going to switch on to a soft compound tyre. We might see that then in the near future. Then those medium compound tyres must be screaming out there, though. They must be a bit too warm at this stage of the race, I would imagine, but he's doing a great job out there to hold on, and he's actually closing in then on the top two on those old medium compound tyres, which is fantastic stuff indeed. Kiki then 2.8 seconds back then from the top three. Then that gap is coming down then, but I'm not quite sure why it's a bit misty over the but it's a bit misty at stages of this race, but there we are then. I think the DRS then has pulled the 3-second gap now to the top three then for Kiki, then trying to get himself back in that window on the medium compound tyres. He's on much fresher medium compound tyres compared to Speed Kai. But at this stage, then Speed Kai, I thought Mumford was going for a dive, then that has been very costly indeed then, and Speed Kai's off the circuit, and that is, well, I'm not quite sure what happened there. Mumford just misjudged the braking point completely, I think there. Jay Hings has got himself past his teammate of Gordon, and I think these two might start to work together here as well, because of course Jay Hings is on much fresher medium compound tyres. Can he catch Kian? Can he catch Plotters as well then potentially on those medium compound tyres? We'll have to wait and see. They will of course be on much older hard compound tyres when they get to the end of this race then. Jay Hings is on the charge then, as we've got another problem then for Kydell then at the same place as well. Then Kydell's struggling then through the hairpin once again, then he's not having a great time out there then, so he's got himself back underway now, and unfortunately struggling in the McLaren then tonight then through the hairpin section then, and now the race leaders are right behind him as well then. Here they come then. Ultimate Beast is under pressure then from Mumford. They've dropped Speed Kai for the time being. Kiki is now just over 1 second then away. That Speed Kai trying to push himself back into that 1 second window then, if he can, of the top two then. If he can, that would be amazing stuff indeed then. But Kiki now trying to gain then. He is gaining. You can see him in the background then flying through into sector 3. Here comes Kiki then on the charge on those medium compound tyres then. Unfortunately for Speed Kai, I think he's lost out then to the DRS then of Mumford. But Mumford now on the charge then for the race lead. Then they can see the McLaren of Kydell in front of them. But Kydell will have to get out of the way then under blue flags. And he's coming into the pit lane, I think, there as well. No, he's not. He's carrying on. So never mind. But there we are then, as Ultimate Beast then has got himself through then, past and up into P, or stays in P1 I should say. Then Speed Kai has finally entered the pit lane now, so he's called it a day on those 19 or 18 lap old medium compound tyres. And on to lap 19 we go then. Speed Kai, where will he come out then in relation to the rest of the field? Then he's going to be behind the Williams Golf Camaro Racer, I believe. He might come out ahead of Nigel then. We'll have to wait and see. Then yes, I think he will. So that is going to be in top 10 then for Speed Kai. Good stuff indeed for Racing Bulls then. After a no score, I think in the first race of the season then. Of course with Farf involved, of course it's going to be a no score. But there we are then. So far so good then. Lap 19 of 25 then. It's been a pretty epic Grand Prix so far. Very fast paced, very good overtaking indeed as well then throughout the field, and unfortunately a few mishaps then, but we've seen that through Saudi Arabia then as a natural part of the circuit. Unfortunately it is very, very difficult then. Keeping the concentration then for the 25 laps then at this high speed is incredibly difficult stuff indeed then, and unfortunately for a few it has been costly then, but for these two so far it has been brilliant, and they have had a fantastic battle once again in this race then. Mumford and Ultimate Beast then have been flying out here as well. Then there is a engine of support flying through past the window as well then, of course somebody with a massive appendage, but there we go then. Here comes Mumford then on the attack this time. Can he make a move then? Beast is sliding around then in the final corner then. That back end trying to step out then on the Mercedes. Here comes the Alpine with some DRS then. Can he go for the race lead then on to lap 20? Here we go then down the inside. He's got the position, he's got the move then into turn 1 and back into the race lead then for the Alpine of Mumford then. Great stuff indeed then. Kiki is 2.5 seconds back now from the top two. Can those medium compound tyres then catch up quickly enough then to challenge then for the race win potentially here, and at least get himself on the podium places as it stands? Then Gordo's got himself back past his teammate, I should say, of Jay Hings. Yellow flags again then. And what's happened? It's Kydell. Kydell is, oh my goodness me, Kydell again then has had another issue somewhere out on circuit. Then he's got the car corrected then, but goodness me, Kydell is having problems out there. Unfortunately for Kydell, it's a shame to see then, because he's a fantastic guy and a fantastic racer indeed as well. Kian has jumped down to P15 then. I think that's his internet connection then, trying to get himself sorted. But yeah, unfortunately for Kian then, I don't think his connection's improved then, so he will have to sit out potentially the next couple of races or so. until he gets that sorted then. But a big shame though. But unfortunately, like I said, it's pretty dangerous then for the rest of the drivers then on the grid. Beast and Mumford looking dangerous then for the rest of the drivers on the grid as well. Then Meat Beast and Mumford then are looking to try and get themselves a win each then in the first round and a P2 each as well then in the second round. So we'll have to wait and see how it's going to unfold, who's going to do what then to the checkered flag, then to the line then. But we've got 5 laps remaining here in Saudi Arabia then as we cross on to lap 21 then of 25. And this has been absolutely brilliant then between these top 2. Here comes, there's Kiki in the background and he's closing in then, and Sweet and P then has done a good job as well. Under the radar then is for Sweet and P and the other Alpine then, but both the Alpines looking to score highly here in this race as it stands as well then. Good stuff indeed. I hate to crash out, says R2B, but yeah, unfortunately it is the case around here. Speed guys, that's the fastest lap of the race then. Good stuff indeed then for the Racing Bulls team. And Vess here's got himself past Nigel then for P10 as it stands out there as well then. Unfortunately for Vessia and Nigel, both of them have had incidents then in this race. Then here comes Nigel on the attack, and then can he get himself back past the Ferrari then into turn 1? But I think he's too far back then to challenge then into the heavy braking zone then of turn 1 then. Yes, he is, unfortunately. He's got wing damage then, has Nigel, and Kian has jumped back up the order somehow, so goodness me, blimey. Speed car, sorry, has got himself past Kamara Racer, now up into P9. Then those soft compound tyres working wonders at this stage of the race now as well. Of course, the cars are lighter as well on the fuel. And there is your vote then for Driver of the Day. Then get your votes in then for Silver Season 8 Round 2 Driver of the Day. Nigel picked up a penalty as well then, unfortunately for Nigel. But we will have a look at the penalty situation as well. But your candidates are Mumford, Beast, Gordo and Jay Hings then, who have been absolutely fantastic in this race. I think you can name all 16 drivers then who've got to this stage of the race as well. Then hopefully they can get to the checkered flag as well. But it's been absolutely brilliant this race as well from Silver. Absolutely top notch indeed. Kiki has got himself in DRS range then of the top 2, and this could be where the danger lies then, as we've got yellow flags once again at the hairpin then for a McLaren. But we are back on the way then. Beast now pushing Mumford then through turn 4, or through towards turn 4 I should say then, as the yellow flags do dissipate as well, get out of the way. But there we go then. Jay Hings is back past his teammate of Gordon, then they're trying to chase down Kian in P6 as well then. Potentially could be some more points on the cars then for the Aston Martin team. Riyad's picked up the penalty as well then. Unfortunately for Riyad, that is his race has gone from bad to worse then out there after turn 1 or before turn 1 incident then on the start finish straight then, where he outbraked himself, then put the brake power on, didn't he? And that spun the car then with the brake bias then into the wall, and unfortunately he was on the track then in position to take the race lead then into turn 1 on the opening lap, that is. But unfortunately that was very costly indeed. Then here comes Kiki then. He's got himself in range now of the top 2 then, potentially for a race win then. But Mercedes need to play the team game here as well, remember, because there is a lot of points on the board then for Mercedes as it stands then. Even if they don't win this Grand Prix, then here comes Beast, then here comes Kiki as well. Then they're going to go for the move then, are they? Both of them in towards the final turn then. Kiki going around the outside then of Mumford. Can he hold the position? There's a wall there. You can't go into that wall. It's solid, and unfortunately for Kiki then, he's gone into it. But has he got damage is the question. Then that might be very costly indeed then for Kiki. I think he's avoided any damage there, which is lucky. But my goodness me, that was close indeed then. And look in the background there is SweetMGP then. If he can catch up to this pack then and make it an Alpine 2 and 2 fight then with the Mercedes 2, then potentially then there could be some fantastic fights. Then as Kiki's into the wall, then he's spun the car around. And that is costly indeed then for Kiki. He's lost out to the podium places. He's pushing too hard then is Kiki. And we saw this in Bahrain as well. And unfortunately for Kiki, that has cost him a podium place as it stands as well. Then hopefully he can keep his composure together just to keep himself on the track then for P4. He's now got plotters all behind him, right behind him as well, I should say, which is a big shame indeed. Kiki going so strong there. And unfortunately, it has been costly once again then for Kiki. Then a big shame there. Hopefully he can push on and maybe catch up then to SweetMGP. If he gets a penalty in the Alpine, potentially get himself back in the podium places then. But that has been very, very costly indeed then. And Beast, I think, was hoping that Kiki was going to help him in the fight then for the race win. But it's been very costly for Mercedes as well then, as they've dropped out of the fight then with the Alpines. And now Alpine are in prime position as well here. Here comes Mumford then. Oh my goodness me, they're all over the place. I'm hoping that was me rather than them, because blimey, if that's how they're racing, that is impossible. But there we go then. Mumford into the race lead, then on to lap 24 of 25, then the penultimate lap of the race, I should say, as here we go then in towards turn 1 now, and Beast stays behind the Alpine for the time being, that is, into the first chicane then, so he's sitting behind for the time being, then is Ultimate Beast, then I'm not quite sure. I hope that Beast doesn't have internet issues. We saw him lag out in qualifying. Oh goodness me! I hope he stays. I hope he's in the race still, because if he lags out and he doesn't take doesn't take P2 as it stands, then that will be very, very costly indeed. Then he is still pushing on then, but unfortunately he's losing pace, then losing a lot of pace as well. Then to Mumford, who's really going for it now, is the Alpine driver. Then almost sliding it through the hairpin. We'll have a look at the situations then with position changes as well. Then we'll switch on the telemetries, yeah, I'm not quite sure what is going on. I thought Beast then maybe he was just harvesting energy there, but Beast then losing time, and I thought he'd lagged out. Then into the pits comes Nigel and Vess here, then going for the fastest lap point here of this race as well. Then for those two, good stuff indeed for soldiering on out there as well. Then Mumford and Ultimate Beast then soldiering on in this race win attempt here in Saudi Arabia. Then Kaido's got a 3-second penalty for speeding, not for speeding, for track limits once again. Then Mumford then is in the race lead then as we go on to the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. But here comes Ultimate Beast then into the final turn. Then can he make a move then on to lap 25 as we cross over the start-finish line to start the final lap of this Grand Prix here in Saudi Arabia. Then here comes Ultimate Beast then on the charge. Then can he make the move? Then can he get himself into the race lead? Then is he going to go for the race lead then into turn 1? He stays behind, which is very interesting indeed then. So a bit of tactics underway then from Mercedes as Kiki has been passed then by Plotters into turn 1 then, and unfortunately for Kiki then, his race is not going the way he wanted it to after, of course, getting himself back into the podium places then with a alternate strategy. That is appalling stuff indeed then for Kiki, and a big shame indeed as Plotters has retired. Plotters has retired. Why? What's happened? My goodness me then, as Kiki and as turn 4 again then for another driver, and Jay Hings, oh my goodness me. Oh God, this is the final lap, guys. Just get to the checkered flag. It's the most important thing. Oh my goodness, it seems like anarchy is going on here in the final lap then of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We'll come back to the battles as well around the field then, but we've got a battle here then for the race win then. Ultimate Beast then is on the charge then with Mumford in the race lead as it stands there, but Beast has got the DRS then. His Beast has got the ERS then as well then as we go through into Sector 3 now. And Plotters, the podium sitter then from Bahrain, is out of the Grand Prix here on the final lap of the race. Then here comes Beast on the charge. Then can he get himself up into the race lead here onto the final quarter? Then it's going to be close indeed between the two of them then as we go tight neck and neck then into the final quarter. Then who is it going to take the race win? Then this is the question. Who's got the DRS? Then Mumford has taken the race lead. Here he comes in across the line, and Mumford wins the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix with a fantastic race from the Alpine driver. What a race win then, and well controlled then up into P1 then. A fantastic strategy, a fantastic race, a fantastic battling then, and well calculated then to win the Grand Prix here then. Beast in P2, a fantastic race from him as well then, to be fair. Of course, after that issue in qualifying where he couldn't get a final lap in, he got himself a podium once again then. Sweet NJP then P3, a fantastic result from Sweet NJP. The Alpine team are 1-3 here in Saudi Arabia, then they're going to be very happy with that indeed. And great drive indeed then from the other Alpine driver of Sweet NJP. Then he's done a good job here tonight then for getting him some big points for the Alpine team in Saudi Arabia. Then Kiki P4 in the end then after Plotter's retirement then, and Kiki then P4 still rounds off a good result then for Mercedes then, but unfortunately ruining what could have been then for Kiki. Unfortunately for him then, Kian P5 in the end, good reserve appearance then from the Sauber driver. Then Gordo P6, then Jay Hings P7, brilliant result then from the Aston Martins once again then, putting on a strong consistent performance as well then for the Aston Martin pair. Then Speed Car P8 then, a great result indeed after starting from the back of the grid. Then Kamara Racer P9, well done to Kamara Racer for getting through this race, and both the both the Williams I should say reflection as well in P10, so both the Williams scoring some good points then for their team as reflection rounds off the top 10 then. But blimey, what a race indeed. And driver of the day then Speed Kai then, but of course driver of the day, oh my goodness, I've hit the mic again then in the I've hit the mic once again. Driver of the day then is going to Mumford as it stands then in the Alpine. But what a fantastic result. Then there is your podium drivers. Then there is Mumford on the top step. Then Beast in P2 and Sweet P then, sorry, in P3. But a brilliant result then from the top three. Then a brilliant result from Silver, to be fair. Fantastic racing indeed, all the way through the grid. Then unfortunately, a few drivers caught out by the nature of the circuit then as well then, but that is the nature of the circuit. Unfortunately, it is a treacherous one indeed, but what a race indeed then from Silver. And once again, I've hit the mic on the other mic. But there we go. We'll run through the classification quickly then for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Mumford, your race winner then from P3. Beast in P2. Swinter P in P3. Then Kiki P4. Kian P5. Gordo P6. Jay Hings P7. Speed Kai P8. Kamara Racer P9. Then Reflection P10. Rounding off the top 10 then for Williams. Riyadh P11. Then good recovery in the end, unfortunately for him. Not quite enough in the end. Then Vessia P12. Nigel P13. Plotters P14. DNF then. Mr. Elite then is P15. Kaido P16. Farf out of the race. Tonto out of the race. R2B out of the race. And Duke also out of the Grand Prix here as well. Then Speed Kai with the fastest lap of the race. 29.399. Goodness me. I am very sweaty after that one. I can't imagine what the drivers are going to be like there, but we'll speak to the podium sitters now then. We have got, have we? Bear me 1 second whilst I try and find out. We've got, hopefully we've got some podium interviews then to host in this race. But we'll have to wait and see. But fantastic stuff indeed. And there is your podium sitters. Then we have got. We'll start off with the race winner. Then Mumford. Hopefully you can hear me firstly. But Mumford, a fantastic win from yourself. Then, and what a battle you had with Beast then throughout that whole race as well.
Yeah, I felt like I was due for that win. It's been a long time since I've joined, so yeah, I'm buzzing to get that win. I'll be honest with you.
Absolutely brilliant stuff from yourself. And did you think you had the race win in the cards, or did you think potentially Beast was going to get there at the very last minute?
Beast passed me on lap 22 and he was flashing battery, and I had 100%. So at that point, I just knew it was about managing the battery, just staying ahead, trying to keep that gap. I was really quick in sector one. I kept making the gap like 8 to 9 tenths. So not really. It was just about managing at the end.
Fantastic pace from yourself once again, and you said you didn't have much pace around here. So was it just a bit of mind games, or what was your thinking before the race then?
Oh yeah, I was lying 100%.
Well, it's fair play for admitting it, to be fair. Well, we know that for on the cards then for future races, but no, fantastic from yourself. Then, what's your thoughts then for Australia in a week's time?
I have not touched it on this game. I don't think I did it last season either, so I haven't got a clue.
Ooh, interesting stuff indeed. Then we might see a different podium then for next week, but we'll have to wait and see then. But fantastic indeed from Mumford. Then you're back on or joint top of the standings then with Ultimate Beast, of course, after he of course won, and you got P2 in Bahrain. Then it's roles reversed here in Saudi Arabia. Then a victory then for the Alpine team then, and Mumford then a fantastic result here in Saudi Arabia then for Mumford. Great stuff indeed from yourself, and well done. Ultimate Beast then P2 in this race, but blimey, you put it all on your shoulders then at the start of the session then with the incident in qualifying. What happened in qualifying then at the beginning of that session?
Did my Q11, that was okay. Went out on Q2, not Q2, lap 2. Was just internet issues again. Once again, need to sort it out somehow, but. Yeah.
Well, thankfully it held on for the Grand Prix itself then, and you, like I was saying to Mumford, you were in a battle then between the two of you mostly for pretty much 25 laps. It was safe to say. And what was your thoughts then going through that race then with Mumford then challenging all the way?
Oh, just an insane battle, wasn't it? I was half chilling, half pushing, especially at the end. I thought I had it at an edge, especially on that last straight, but I guess he was like almost full battery on that last lap, which I wasn't. I had to use the battery in the first sector. I don't know what his wings was, but definitely higher than mine.
Well, it didn't matter in the end. It was a great battle for sure, and one that all the fans in the comment section was very much enjoying as well then. But yeah, you're still I think technically you're joint, well, no, you're joint at the top of the standings then with Mumford, but you're still leading because of countback, and you won the first race of the season. So you're still top of the championship as it stands then. Do you reckon this championship fight is going to carry on then for the rest of the season?
After that race, it's looking good because this is one of my worst tracks, I would say, if I would put it on a tier list. So you never know.
Good stuff indeed. Well, hopefully we'll see you back here then in the near future. Then I'm not sure if Sweet MGP joined us in the end then. No, he didn't, unfortunately. But congratulations then to Sweet MGP, then P3 for Alpine in this Grand Prix as well then. So great stuff indeed. And of course, we're on to bronze tomorrow night then here in Jeddah as well then. So bronze will be taking you through the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix from 7:30 p.m. tomorrow night. Then stay tuned for that. And we're ahead then back to Australia then, ahead of the rest of the calendar, then the rest of the divisions, I should say, then for the 100% League, which is returning then on the Wednesday. Then that is going to be interesting stuff indeed, with Ginger Rage taken to the track as well. So stay tuned for that then. Bronze tomorrow night then, and 100% on Wednesday, all both of them at 7:30 p.m. as well. Thanks very much for joining us, everybody then, and we'll see you very soon.